My wife casually asked how I felt about an open marriage. I responded, absolutely, I'm all for it. Trust, communication, spending time together. It's so much better than a closed marriage, where we avoid each other and live in separate rooms like roommates. My name is Brian. I'm 49 years old, married to Megan for 18 years, and we have a 17-year-old daughter named Louise. Megan and I run a small business together, a modern twist on the classic mom-and-pop shop. Between managing finances, client meetings, and Louise's non-stop extracurricular activities, we barely get a chance to sit down and breathe. Megan and I have always been the kind of people who stay busy. She's into yoga, book clubs, and what she calls the art of brunching. Meanwhile, I keep myself occupied with work, my love for woodworking, and weekly basketball games with the guys. We're both social and constantly on the move. Over the years, we've grown apart a little, but I figured that was just life. Honestly, I thought the space between us was healthy. It kept things interesting. For our 17th wedding anniversary, I decided to go all out. Megan had been hinting that she needed a break, so I planned a weekend getaway to Monarch Bay Resort in Dana Point, California. Imagine this. Oceanfront views, sunsets so beautiful they look fake, and a level of luxury that just screams, you deserve this. It's the kind of place where people take pictures of their eggs Benedict as if it's a masterpiece. When I told Megan, she lit up like a Christmas tree, her green eyes sparkling. "Oh, Brian," she said with a huge smile. "You actually listened to me for once." That's marriage in a nutshell. Getting points just for paying attention feels like winning a prize. The resort was everything I'd hoped for and then some. We spent our days by the infinity pool, sipping margaritas while listening to the waves crash in the distance. For the first time in forever, we were free from work, Louise's teenage dramas, and the constant ping of notifications. It felt normal, happy, like we were the couple we used to be before life got so hectic. On the second night, I made dinner reservations at a cozy seaside restaurant on the resort property. Megan looked gorgeous in a flowy summer dress. As I watched her, I thought, this is it. We've still got it. We toasted our glasses, laughed about old memories, and even made a few half-serious jokes about aging. I have to admit, I was feeling like a pretty great husband. Then it happened. As the waiter cleared our plates, Megan leaned back in her chair with a dreamy expression. Brian, I love this place," she began. "I can't wait to come back here again, with Jack. He'd absolutely adore this kind of relaxing atmosphere." For a moment, I couldn't process what she just said. My brain tripped over her words like someone stumbling up a flight of stairs. Jack? Did she just say Jack? Who the hell is Jack? I must have looked completely dumbfounded because Megan calmly sipped her wine, acting like she just mentioned the weather. Finally, I managed to stammer, "What did you just say, Megan? Who's Jack?" She blinked at me, all wide-eyed, as if I was the one acting strange. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some innocent mistake. Megan knew exactly what she was saying. Just like that, my perfect anniversary weekend took a sharp dive straight into disaster. I sat there, staring at her, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. But before I could wrap my head around it, she leaned forward with a confused look and said, "Brian, wait, you don't know Jack? He's my friend. We met at yoga. Oh, and I even got him to join my book club." She said it so casually, like she was introducing me to some neighbor I hadn't met, not someone she'd been secretly spending time with. And then, she kept going. Megan launched into an animated explanation about Jack, complete with hand gestures and an almost dreamy look in her eyes. "He's such a great guy, Brian. You'd like him. He's so insightful, always adding unique perspectives to our book discussions. And his yoga poses. Oh my God. You wouldn't believe how flexible he is. He's a natural." I raised my hand, cutting her off mid-sentence. "Megan," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "I don't care how flexible Jack is or how many books he's read. What I want to know is why. Why on earth did you just say you want to come back here with him?" Her face lit up as though I just asked her to describe her favorite movie. "Well, because it's romantic, obviously. I mean, this place is perfect for a getaway. And, I shared personal moments with him sometimes. So being here would be such a treat, for both the body and the soul." I froze, my hand flying to my forehead, as though holding it might somehow stop my brain from unraveling. My mouth was agape, and for a moment, I genuinely wondered if I was losing my mind. Was this real? Was I caught in some bizarre dream? Could this be an elaborate, cruel prank? Wait, hold on, I stammered, barely able to speak. Megan, are you telling me you're cheating on me? That Jack is your lover? And you're just saying it like it's no big deal? Like we're discussing dessert options? Megan looked at me, bewildered, as though I was the one being unreasonable. Cheating? Brian, don't be so dramatic. It's not cheating. It's perfectly normal. I mean, you never said you were against it. I nearly toppled out of my chair. What? Are you serious? This is the first I'm hearing about this. I never agreed to anything like that. What are you even saying? Is this some kind of joke? Megan, do you even hear yourself right now? My voice was rising, and that's when Megan's carefree demeanor cracked just a little. She placed her wine glass down with a clink and hissed, Brian, keep your voice down. Stop making that face. You're scaring me, and you're going to ruin the mood. Oh, I'm ruining the mood? I shot back. Megan, you just admitted you're having an affair, and now I'm the problem? Brian, stop it, she snapped, her tone sharpening. You're embarrassing me. Can't we just have a calm, adult conversation about this? I noticed people starting to pay attention. A waiter standing nearby hesitated, unsure if he should step in. My face burned, not from embarrassment, but from sheer rage. I shot up from my chair, the loud scrape of it against the floor echoing in the room. Fine, Megan, I said through gritted teeth, my fury barely contained. Let's go back to the room. If you want to talk, we'll do it there. Away from everyone. Megan glanced around, clearly uncomfortable with the attention we were attracting. With a theatrical sigh, she grabbed her purse and followed me out, mumbling under her breath about how I was overreacting. My head was spinning. This weekend, meant to be a romantic escape, had spiraled into a nightmare. No way was I going to let her mess with my head like this. When the door to our hotel room slammed shut, it was just the two of us. The warm, celebratory vibe of our anniversary was gone, replaced by a thick tension that filled the air. All right, Megan, I said, turning to face her. Start talking. Why are you doing this? Why would you cheat on me? Or is this some sick joke? Just tell me it's a joke. Megan let out an exaggerated sigh, the kind that suggested I was the one being irrational. Brian, it's not cheating, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. I already told you. It's a partnership, just a different kind of partnership. A partnership? I repeated, my voice rising with disbelief. Megan, this isn't some business deal. This is our marriage. And what you're describing isn't a partnership, it's betrayal. Megan shook her head with a slight laugh, almost like she found my reaction amusing. Brian, stop being so old-fashioned. This is completely normal. And besides, you agreed to it. I stared at her, dumbfounded. What? Megan, have you lost your mind? I would never agree to something like this. Even if I'd completely lost it, I'd never give my wife permission to sleep with another man. She raised her hand, motioning for me to calm down. Brian, you did agree. Well, sort of, she said, her tone light and teasing. Do you remember that conversation we had about 4 months ago? I frowned, trying to figure out what she was talking about. What conversation? You know, she said, almost amused. That time I was in the kitchen with Bethany, and you walked in? We were chatting, and I casually asked how you felt about an open marriage. You said, and I quote, open marriage? Absolutely. I'm all for it. You know, trust, communication, spending time together. It's way better than a closed marriage where we avoid each other and live in separate rooms like roommates. Then you laughed and walked out. Don't you remember? It hit me like a freight train. I did remember that day. I had been rushing out the door for a meeting, and when Megan and Bethany mentioned open marriage, I tossed out a sarcastic comment and left. At the time, it was nothing more than a joke, something I hadn't even thought twice about. Oh my God, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. I remember now. Megan, I was joking. I didn't even know what you were talking about. I wasn't being serious. Open marriage? Closed marriage? You didn't explain anything. She shrugged, her tone casual. Well, maybe you should have asked. My hands were trembling slightly as I pulled out my phone and quickly Googled open marriage meaning. Within seconds, the screen filled with definitions, articles, and examples. As I read through them, my stomach churned. This is crazy, I said, my voice shaking with anger. You never talked to me about this. You didn't wait for a real answer. You just decided this was okay all on your own. Megan's expression didn't shift. Well, I noticed how you were acting around Rosie, one of our clients. You were all flirty and overly friendly with her. Don't try to deny it, Brian. I figured you were already sleeping with her, so I made a logical conclusion. If it's okay for you, why can't it be okay for me? Besides, we're successful. Louise is almost grown. Why not add something new to our marriage? The floor felt like it was crumbling beneath me. Rosie? I exclaimed, incredulous. Oh my God, Megan, I wasn't flirting with her. I was being polite. I helped her with a project because her dad, who happens to be my friend, asked me to. Rosie is married with a kid, and she's 10 years younger than me. Are you even hearing yourself? That's when the truth hit me like a slap in the face. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Megan had completely twisted the situation, crafting her own version of events to make herself seem like the victim and me the villain. All right, Megan said, leaning back on the bed as though this were just an ordinary conversation. Let's pretend, for argument's sake, that you're not doing anything with Rosie. Though, honestly, Brian, she's a total hottie. But what about your basketball games with the guys? Isn't that just an excuse to sneak off somewhere? A strip club, maybe? Or something worse? I blinked, utterly stunned. What the hell are you even talking about, Megan? Megan cut me off before I could say another word. Don't deny it, Brian. I've read about this kind of thing. Books, articles, stories from other women. I understand how it works. I'm not judging you. All I'm saying is, you need to accept that I have a partner on the side, just like I've accepted the possibility that you might too. Her tone was calm, almost cheerful, like she was explaining some trendy new lifestyle she'd adopted. Megan, I said, my voice shaking. This is insane. It's absolute nonsense. Don't you dare sit there and act like I'm the bad guy here. I'm not the one who's betrayed us, and I won't let you spin it that way. I couldn't take it anymore. My patience had completely run out. I stormed to the closet, yanked out my suitcase, and started throwing clothes into it. What are you doing? Megan asked, her voice tinged with amusement, like she was watching a child throw a tantrum. What does it look like? I snapped. The vacation's over. I'm done. I don't want to stay here, and I definitely don't want to look at you right now. Megan crossed her arms, leaning casually against the doorframe, as if this whole situation didn't faze her in the slightest. Well, that's fine, Brian, she said, her voice dripping with indifference. But I'm staying. I'm not going to let your little meltdown ruin my weekend. I plan to enjoy myself here, with or without you. I zipped up my suitcase and turned to face her, my hands trembling with rage. Megan, let me make one thing perfectly clear. I will never, ever accept this so-called partnership with Jack, or with anyone else. What you're doing isn't just some modern arrangement. It's cheating, plain and simple. And if you think I'm going to sit by and let this happen, you're dead wrong. I'm ready to take action, starting with filing for divorce. She laughed. She actually laughed, like I just told her the most absurd joke. Brian, she said, shaking her head, don't be so dramatic. You're not going to divorce me. Stop pretending like it's a real threat. Just calm down and think this through, okay? Besides, I love you. Jack is just a light romantic fling. If it really bothers you that much, I can stop seeing him in a couple of months. Take a little break so you won't feel so upset. That was it. That was the moment the last ounce of patience I had for this marriage evaporated. Her smug smile, her ridiculous attempt to frame her betrayal as a negotiation. It was the final straw. Oh my God, I said, shaking my head in disbelief. You don't get it, do you? You're standing here, tearing apart everything we built together, and you think I'll just roll with it? Well, guess what, Megan? I'm done. Without another word, I grabbed my suitcase, stormed out of the room, and left the resort. The drive home was a blur, but my thoughts were painfully clear. It was over. Our marriage was finished. As an idealist, I had always clung to values like freedom, responsibility, and morality. Megan had trampled all over those beliefs, and I realized I couldn't stay with someone who didn't respect those values, or me. When I pulled into the driveway, the house felt unnervingly quiet. Before I could even put my suitcase down, Louise appeared at the top of the stairs, her face lighting up in surprise. "Dad? What are you doing home already? Where's Mom?" I let out a long sigh, running a hand through my hair. Louise had always been sharp, sometimes too sharp for her own good. I couldn't lie to her, but I also couldn't burden her with the full weight of the situation. "Well," I began carefully, "your mom and I had a disagreement. A big one. She decided to stay at the resort a little longer, and I came back to clear my head." Louise's brows furrowed as she stepped down the stairs. "What kind of disagreement? Is everything okay?" I hesitated, meeting her worried eyes. "Look, I won't sugarcoat this. Things between your mom and me are complicated right now. There's a chance we might not stay together." Her face fell, and she crossed her arms, hugging herself like she was trying to brace for bad news. "You mean a divorce?" I walked over and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "I know this is a lot to process, but I promise you, no matter what happens, everything will be okay. You are my priority, and I will make sure you're taken care of. Always." She nodded slowly, though the worry in her eyes didn't fade. "Okay, Dad. I trust you." After she went back to her room, I sat down and pulled out my phone. It was time to take the next step. I dialed my attorney, Arthur, a no-nonsense guy who had helped me with business contracts in the past. "Brian," Arthur answered. "Didn't expect to hear from you during your big anniversary trip. What's going on?" "Arthur," I said, getting straight to the point, "I need you to prepare divorce papers. As soon as possible." There was a brief pause before he responded. "Divorce? That's sudden. Are you sure?" "As sure as I've ever been," I replied, pacing the living room. "I need your help with everything, dividing assets, the business, finances. And I need to make sure Louise is okay through all of this." Arthur let out a heavy sigh. "All right. The simplest route is a 50-50 split of everything, which is the standard unless you both agree to something different. We'll also need to address custody arrangements for Louise, though she's old enough to have some input." "Got it," I said, jotting down notes. "Let's move forward. I want a draft ready as soon as possible." "Understood," Arthur said firmly. The days that followed felt like a blur. I poured all my energy into work, hoping to distract myself from the weight of everything happening. Louise kept her distance, probably sensing that I needed time, though I could tell she was still worried. By the time Megan returned home, Arthur had already sent me a preliminary draft of the divorce papers. The moment she walked through the door, Megan's eyes immediately landed on the stack of documents sitting on the kitchen counter. She picked them up, flipping through the pages, her expression darkening. "What's this?" she demanded sharply. That I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms, and locked eyes with Megan. "It's exactly what it looks like, Megan. A draft of the divorce agreement. I'm done with the lies, the gaslighting, and whatever it is you think this marriage has become." Before Megan could respond, Louise appeared in the doorway. Her face was a mix of confusion and fear as she asked, "What's going on?" Megan's expression immediately softened as she turned toward Louise. "Sweetheart, don't worry. It's just adult stuff. Your dad and I are working through some things." I stepped in, keeping my voice calm but resolute. "No, Megan. No more sugarcoating. Louise deserves the truth. She already knows something's wrong, and she's smart enough to understand what's happening." Megan's jaw tightened as she glanced between us. "This is ridiculous, Brian. We don't need lawyers. We can work this out, like adults." "Adults don't lie to each other," I shot back. "Adults don't betray each other. And adults don't change the rules of a marriage without asking first." The silence that followed was heavy. Louise shifted her gaze between us, clearly bracing for what would come next. Megan sighed dramatically and turned to face Louise. "Sweetheart," she began softly, "I think you deserve to know the truth. Your father," she paused, casting me a pointed look, "agreed to an open marriage. But now he's twisting everything to make me look like the bad guy so he can divorce me. Louise froze, her expression a mix of disbelief and confusion. What, Dad? Is that true? I took a deep breath, grounding myself before responding. No, Louise. It's not true. Months ago, your mom mentioned the idea in passing, and I thought she was joking. That's all there was to it. Megan folded her arms, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Oh, so now you're denying everything? You've always been good at playing the innocent card. Let's be honest, Brian. You'd rather keep your little affairs secret while pretending to be the perfect husband. Louise's wide eyes turned to me. Affairs? Dad, is that true? No, I said firmly, my voice unwavering. It's not true. Rosie is a client, nothing more. Your mom is twisting the story to justify her own decisions. Louise hesitated, looking back at Megan. Mom, I don't think I'll ever understand this. Just talking about an open marriage feels like a betrayal. How could you think this was okay? Megan's face hardened, but before she could reply, I stepped in. Enough. This isn't a conversation Louise should be caught in the middle of. Louise, however, stood tall, her voice steady. Dad, I want to stay with you. I'm not leaving you to deal with all this alone. Megan's face went pale. Louise, you're too young to take sides. But Louise didn't budge. I understand enough, Mom. Right now, Dad needs me more than you do. That moment marked the beginning of a new chapter. Neither Megan nor I could imagine running the business together anymore. What had once been a harmonious partnership, a blend of creativity and determination, was now overshadowed by resentment and heartache. We sold the business, and though I took a larger share of the proceeds, Megan agreed begrudgingly, her unhappiness clear. Through it all, Louise became the glue that held everything together. At just 17, she showed a level of wisdom and composure far beyond her years. She stood by me, offering quiet support and listening when I needed to vent. But she didn't cut her mother off entirely. Instead, she worked to mend their relationship in her own way. I don't condone what Mom did, Louise said one evening as we sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. But she's still my mom. I think she knows she messed up. I just hope she learns from it. I nodded, swallowing hard against the lump in my throat. You're a better person than I am, Louise. I don't think I could have handled all of this with the grace you've shown. She offered a faint smile, shrugging lightly. You and Mom taught me to be strong. Maybe I just got lucky and picked up the best parts of both of you. Her words hit me deeply. Despite everything Megan and I had lost, we had done one thing right. We had raised an extraordinary daughter. The divorce was finalized not long after, and Megan and I went our separate ways. The business was gone. The house was no longer mine, and the life we'd built had unraveled. But amid the heartbreak, I felt a surprising sense of relief. Letting go of the past allowed me to make space for the future. Though I hated what had happened, I was ready to move forward. For myself, for Louise, and for whatever came next. Life, as always, had its surprises. A year after the divorce, I had rebuilt my life. My days were filled with work, a new routine, and meaningful time with Louise. I didn't ask about Megan's life, nor did I want to know. But life, in its unpredictable way, brought her story back to me. One evening, as Louise joined me for dinner, I could sense she had something on her mind. After the meal, she leaned back in her chair, a small smirk playing on her lips. Dad, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. It's about Mom. I raised an eyebrow, letting her continue. Well, Louise began with a chuckle. After the divorce, Mom started dating Jack. It got pretty serious, like, relationship serious. She even used some of the divorce money to open a yoga studio with him. I nodded, unsurprised. That tracks. So, what's the twist? Louise leaned in, clearly enjoying the story. Here's the funny part. A few weeks ago, I overheard Mom venting to Aunt Bethany. Venting about what? I asked, intrigued. About Jack, Louise said, her grin widening. Apparently, Mom thought they were exclusive, like a real couple. But Jack didn't see it that way. Turns out, he was dating other women, much younger women. I blinked, stunned, before letting out a laugh I couldn't suppress. You're joking. I'm not, Louise said, laughing with me. Mom told Bethany she felt completely blindsided. She actually said, I thought we were building something together, and then I find out he doesn't take us seriously. I shook my head, chuckling. Oh, the irony. Louise's laughter softened as she added. It hit her hard. She's been really down since finding out. She also told Bethany she regrets how she treated you. Apparently, she thinks about it a lot. That last part gave me pause. For a moment, I was quiet, unsure how to respond. Do you think she's learned anything from this? I finally asked. Louise shrugged. I think so. Or at least I hope so. She's not the same, Dad. I think she's starting to see things from your perspective. I nodded slowly, letting her words settle. If that's true, then maybe some good came out of all this after all. As we cleaned up the kitchen together, I couldn't help but reflect on how poetic it all was. Megan had walked away from our marriage chasing freedom and new experiences, only to find herself in the same position she had put me in. I don't know if she fully understands the pain she caused, but I like to believe she's learning. Life has a way of teaching lessons in the most unexpected ways, and maybe this was hers. For me, it was confirmation that I'd made the right choice. My life had moved on, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace.